はい、よろしくお願いします。Well, it's another beautiful Sunday at Daishu-in West. Thank you for tuning in. It's a little spooky, and the flowers are just exploding, and the grass is shooting up, and everything's covered in pollen. And I sure hope we get some more rain, because if we don't, it's going to be an extremely long fire season. But it's paradisical. So, according to Blofeld, this is section 10, just the first half. Master Obaku says, people of the world hear the Buddhas transmit the Dharma of mind, and they imagine there is another Dharma beyond mind itself to be attained. Therefore, they use mind to seek the Dharma, not understanding that mind is itself Dharma, and Dharma is itself mind. Mind cannot be used to seek something from mind. Even after the passage of 1,000,000 eons, the day of achievement will not have come. They don't understand that if they cease seeking in an instant, this is already the original Dharma. It is as if a warrior, thinking he had lost the pearl on his forehead, could travel over the world without finding it. But if someone wise were to indicate it, he would know in a moment the true pearl had been with him all along. Hi. Another way of it's put sometimes is the eye does not see itself, and the sword does not cut itself. The mind does not perceive itself. To use the mind to try to find the mind, or as we often phrase it, to use the mind to try and find the Dharma or to seek enlightenment is actually self-defeating. It's futile. There isn't anything to be attained. There is just knowing the original perfection that already exists. And in fact, to try to attain something, to seek something, is in fact going to, there's no end to it. We can, millions of eons after the day of achievement will not have come. Somehow we still do. We still frustrate ourselves in seeking, in trying to find it elsewhere. And sometimes perhaps it's just, as I said a few weeks ago, we always get the teacher we need. There is never a time when karma misses. That's impossible. That doesn't happen. We always get the teacher that we need for that moment by moment, always. Which means that if we're frustrated seeking, we're looking elsewhere, that's what we need. And in fact, that is not separate itself from this original Buddha nature. It's only frustrating from a relative point of view, from the human being point of view. The I am cut off from all that is, and I am trying to atone. I'm trying to go home. Then it's frustrating. From that perspective, it's frustrating. But originally, there's nothing wrong with that either. And in fact, it's exactly what we need. If that's what's going on, then that's what's going on. And my experience, of course, is that frustration is necessary. It was for me anyway. Hopefully it's better for you. You don't have to be as stupid and as frustrated as me. But it is at the limit of that frustration that surrender often happens. we hear that sometimes. You know, we hear the stories are full of, you know, so-and-so suddenly achieved enlightenment, you know, on hearing the thing or doing the thing or getting his leg caught in the door, whatever it is. And then they see seeking. And they see that this right here is it. But there was all that frustration up until that point, all that exertion and trial. And then the giving up happens quite suddenly. And Master Vaku emphasizes that suddenness again and again and again. If they would only cease in this instant, Jikka, it's often at the base of right here, is often how it's written. And in fact, this is another of these situations where I, as I recall, Blofeld did as well, but they don't understand that seeking in an instant is actually another way of getting around the Mushin problem, because what he says is they don't understand that if they're Mushin, with no mind, they don't understand that if they're no mind, this instant, that is already the original Dharma. I think Blofeld again says, if they cease from conceptual thinking. I just said cease seeking. And it's a way of trying to communicate what that might mean without saying something like no mind, which really doesn't communicate much to most people, particularly when you're talking about mind as Dharma and Dharma as mind, and then a few sentences later you say, if you would only be no mind, and you're like, well, didn't you just say that the Dharma was the mind? What do you mean? And so this is something that if you're aimed towards practice, has to be appreciated. Mind is Dharma and Dharma is mind. So what does that mean to be Mushin, no mind? Doesn't mean that you're completely inert and dull and stupid. It doesn't mean you don't think anymore, you don't operate as a human being, you pretend like there's not a body and a thinking process that happens here. You have to look into what that is. When sweeping, 100% sweeping. When thinking, 100% thinking. Everything that arises as it is, 100%. This is already the original Dharma, as he says. And he ends with this metaphor. It is as if a warrior thinking he had lost a pearl on his forehead would travel all over the world without finding it. And I had only seen this in the Transmission of Mind. And apparently, I looked into it a little bit, just what I could find, conveniently on the internet. And apparently this was a thing in, the first millennia AD in China, where warriors of a certain caste, I suppose, would wear a pearl, an ornament on their forehead, and it indicated rank, and was a ward against ill fortune, and I think had some like Chinese medicine meanings as well. It was good juju. But of course, wearing it on your forehead, if you think you had lost it, and travel all over, you can pass a million eons doing all kinds of different practices. And if you thought you've lost it, then there will be no end to that. What you need, if someone wise were to indicate it, then you would know in a moment that the true pearl was with you all along. And he does a very beautiful thing here. Master Obaku does, where he starts with the metaphor of the pearl on the forehead, and then he makes it completely clear he says, if someone wise, if a wise person were to point it out to you, then you would know that the true pearl was with you from the very beginning, was always with you, and was never lost. So he makes it crystal clear that he's not talking about a pearl on any warrior's forehead. And that is generally, that is what we need. We need a true friend, a good teacher, who says, hey, there's nothing wrong. You are already that. It was never lost. Can't be found because it was never lost. Not that it's something you have either. You already are that. And that is all. Hi. So, as always, if you'd like to get in touch with the temple for any reason, feel free to give me an email, contact@daishu-in-west.org. We're getting ready for Daijo's ceremony, which is April 12th, and then we have the April session following, Daijo Shokinen session, memorial session, April 14th to the 19th. If you'd like to attend, we have plenty of space. Please send me a message, and I will be back next Sunday. よろしくお願いします。